Hi and welcome back to Once Upon a Tiny Farm. My name's Drew. Today we're in our seed starting greenhouse and we're going to be starting our first seeds of the year, and that's going to be onions. And so first I want to talk about two ways that you can start onions from seed. It's very, very simple. And then while I'm planting these seeds, I'm going to talk about a few things that we're doing differently on our farm this year. Um, so that's what we're going to do in this video. Alright, so the first way that you can start your own onion seeds is in your basic cell tray. And this is a way that, an idea I got from Curtis Stone. He did this in one of his videos, and I really like the idea because what you do is plant 3 or 4 seeds in each of these cells. I'm using here a 50 cell tray. I think this is a good size tray for onions. So in each of these cells, I'll plant 3 or 4 seeds and do that the entire way. And what ends up happening is you make planting of the onions a lot easier, because I'm going to show you another way to plant onions here, which is just scattering a whole bunch of seeds in just a open tray like this. This is actually from a rotisserie chicken. I saved this, and it has plastic lid so it can create a little greenhouse effect. So I'm going to be planting seeds that way. But this way, when you're doing them in the cells, you're transplanting a clump of 3 or 4 onions, right? So it's going to take less time transplanting than if you were pulling them out individually and planting just one small little onion in the ground. You'll plant a lot more. You'll get a lot more done this way, and you're still going to get a good sized onion while planting a clump of 3 or 4 onions together. Now they won't get as big as if you planted just one onion, but you get a nice size onion. And I actually prefer onions bit on the smaller side, because not then you could just use one small onion for like a meal, and you don't have to worry about putting the other half of the onion, store it in the fridge or anything like that. So yeah, 3 or 4 seeds in a cell. This works really well. So that's what I'm going to do with these. These are called Red Wing. I grew these last year, and they stored really well. They stored all the way from when they were ready in July all the way into February now, and we actually just ran out. So I'm going to plant more of these for storage, and I'm also going to grow more for market and try to sell some onions this year. I didn't sell onions last year, but I'm going to be planting more. So one kind is going to be the Red Wing, and another kind of onion I'm going to be growing is called the Ailsa Craig. It's an heirloom onion from like the 1800s, 19th century Scotland. It was developed. Pretty cool. But these things can get massive. Now this is a yellow onion, so this won't be really good for storage type onion. But I want to try to grow some really big bulbs of these. So what I'm going to do is, in these trays from the rotisserie chickens that I saved, I'm going to just scatter these seeds all throughout. A ton of seeds. I might do the entire packet of seeds. And they're going to sprout and start to grow. And these I will plant individually. So I'll pick all of the best ones that have gotten the biggest. I will pick those and plant them individually so I can get some big onions like that. Just so I could also sell some of these and eat some of these too. Some of these will be for us because they're really sweet onions and pretty. So that's what I'm going to do, and that's 2 easy ways to grow onions, to start onions from seed. Alright, now first I'm going to plant all of the onion seeds here in the cell tray, and then I'm going to do the big Ailsa Craig onions here next. But while I'm doing that, like I said, I'm going to talk about some things that are changing here on our farm from last year. And the first thing that is going to be different, at least for me, managing the farm, is that I I'm doubling our growing area. Last year, we only grew on about 2,000 square feet on our farm, and I didn't utilize all of it because it was my first year growing for market, and I didn't want to overwhelm myself. And I'm glad that I did it, that I did that, because I could have very easily overwhelmed myself last year, and there were times that I was quite overwhelmed, being my first time um, growing food for market. But I doubled our growing area, and I also am doubling the size of my rows. I had 25-foot rows last year for all of our for everything that we grew, basically, and I expanded them to 50. Not all of it, not all of the rows got expanded, but all of my rows for things like lettuce, I doubled them to 50 feet, because 25-foot rows wasn't enough to keep up with the demand at the market. So that is one thing that's going to be different is I'm going to be managing a lot more area. Um, so yeah, it's just something I'm going to be having to plant more seeds. I'm going to have to start more trays and stay on top of a lot more things on the farm. But I feel like I'm ready for it, and I'm excited. I am excited. Another thing that's going to be different for me from last year is that I'm planning to do 2 farmers markets every week. Um, so last year I only did 1 market a week on Tuesdays. It was kind of a slower market, and I am going to be doing also the Friday market. Um, so I'm going to be doing 2 markets a week. It's going to be a lot more work. Um, I'm not sure exactly how the logistics of that are going to work, at least while my wife is still working and teaching until the end of the year, because I'm responsible for our kids during the day. So might have to figure something out for that, or yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I am determined to do 2 markets a week, and I have already planned for that in my seed starting schedule. I've planned for it, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. So another thing I will be doing a little bit differently, well, not too much differently, but because we're such a small farm, I realized that I really, really need to specialize on the things that we grow and make sure that what I am growing is worth my time um, to sell at the market, because if something's not going to sell, it's just going to waste my time in growing, planting, and my time's valuable, I'm realizing, especially with a small family now. I have other responsibilities, and I can't be wasting my time growing things that aren't profitable. So I'm going to be specializing even more this year on the things that were most profitable last year. So that's going to be my salad mix. That's going to be carrots, a lot more carrots. And I'm going to be trying to grow green beans. I want to have green beans as many weeks as possible. They were a really good seller. And I'll have a few other secondary crops as well, but I'm not going to go crazy on secondary crops. Like, I grew a lot of peppers last year and barely sold any of those peppers. I'm still going to be growing peppers because I like to eat peppers, but might not kill myself trying to spend so much time growing peppers if they're not going to sell. But I actually am going to be growing shishito peppers this year, which is different than what I grew last year, and they might be more popular. We'll see. But yeah, I'm going to basically, I have more of a plan, more focused plan on what I'm going to grow, and I'm just going to be doubling down on those things that were really, really popular last year and just do more of that. So another thing that I've learned from last year, which was my first year growing on market garden scale, is that I'm going to be working more with nature than against it. Excuse me. And what I mean by that is there's certain times of the year when it gets really hot, and you can't really force certain things to grow if the nature just isn't going to allow for it. Talking about things like radishes, for instance, were really popular early in the spring, and spring and fall happen to just be when they grow the best. And as soon as this is something I learned, as soon as July hit and the heat really picked up, I just couldn't grow radishes. They just kept splitting, they kept bolting, and I ended up wasting quite a few rows trying to make them grow when they just didn't want to grow. They weren't going to grow. So I'm not going to force those kind of plants. I'm just going to grow them during the spring and fall when they grow best. And the same was with happened with spinach. I was so determined to grow spinach, and spinach is a cool season crop, and I think I just tried planting them too late. I didn't start them early enough. So spinach is something I'm actually going to be starting in trays very soon to get them an early start. Last year I didn't do them in trays. I tried direct seeding, and it just got hot way too quickly, and they just didn't grow to the size that I needed before they bolted. So this year I'm going to be transplanting my spinach and start them a lot earlier so that I can get some to market. Another thing is I actually didn't have, I grow a lot of lettuce, and lettuce is something that doesn't like the heat. But the Salanova is the kind of lettuce, the majority of the lettuce that I grow. And when it got really hot, I only got one cut off of them before it bolted. So I found a few other varieties of lettuce, Mere and Cherokee, and those are two very heat tolerant varieties. So I think I'm going to grow those lettuces specifically in like July and August when the weather's really, really, really getting warm, so that I can keep up my lettuce production even when the weather's really hot. So I'm going to be trying to work a lot more with nature instead of against it to make my life easier and just to grow better things. So another thing I'm going to be focusing on more this season is using more analytics, and I'm going to be doing that. I realized on the not the Cash app, on the Square app, which I used for credit card payments at the farmer's market, I didn't realize this, but I could have used that to get analytics on everything that I was selling. I could have used that like a cash register, basically, to record everything that people were buying, and I could have recorded how many bags of lettuce or how many bunches of carrots I sold at different times of the year, different days at the market. All of that stuff I could have done. I didn't realize that, and it's a free resource, so I'm going to be using that when I every time people check out at our market stand. I can use that and get better. I could just keep better records and look at my production and see what's working and what isn't. A lot more. I could be more efficient, basically, and I could also keep better track of my sales, and that's going to be something I'm focusing more on this year. I'm also going to be taking a lot better records I got a journal specifically for things like this, like seed starting. I'm going to be keeping records um, on when I start things, how they grew, so that I could just be more efficient as a farmer to see what's working and what isn't. So the journaling is another thing I'm going to be doing to keep better records of how things are growing, because I don't want to have situations like I did last year where I miss time at the market because certain crops aren't ready when I need them to be ready, especially if I'm doing 2 days a week. I can't I think I need things to be ready when I have to bring them to market. So I need to be more prepared, and that's something you can only learn from experience, and I learned that last year. So we're going to be more keeping better records this year. And from this year forward, I can keep looking back at my records and seeing what worked and what didn't. So yeah, I'm excited. I actually got a really cool notebook. It's called a Moleskin notebook, and I really like the layout in there, and it looks cool too. So here in these trays here, I'm just gonna scatter these yellow onion seeds, like I said. Um, this one is from 2020, so hopefully the germination isn't too bad with these. I think onions kind of lose their some of their germination over time if you don't use them. I'm just gonna make some little rows here with my fingers, and I'm gonna sprinkle these in those rows very liberally. So another thing I'm actually really excited about this year is trying to create more of our own inputs from the farm. So that's going to be things like our compost. I created a nice little compost pile last year, and I'm going to be able to use that. I already started using some of it to make the seed starting mix that I did in the last in our last video, and I have been researching worms. I want to have my own worm bin so that I could create my own worm castings, and that would be really beneficial for one, because they're expensive. Worm castings are expensive, and also making it here on our farm is just more efficient, and they might even be better than the stuff that the worm castings that you buy from somewhere else. So yeah, I'm just gonna finish this off here. I'm excited about doing that. I also want to do some compost teas and worm teas, so we could make a tea from our compost that has our chicken manure composted in there, and mixed in with some of the worm castings that we make here. We could really put some beneficial bacteria on all of our crops that are growing in the field, and that would only be good. It would also help. I think I could help with some pest pressure. We could like do some kind of make some kind of foliar spray with that compost tea and spray it all over the leaves of our lettuce or whatever we're growing, and it'll be good for the farm. And it's something I didn't even think about last year, but I've been watching a lot of videos on doing that kind of stuff, and yeah, it gets me excited thinking about that. So we're gonna be doing a lot of that kind of stuff on our farm this year. Now the last thing I really want to do for this coming season is to make a profit. We want our farm has to become profitable, And obviously I didn't expect to make a profit last year, which was our first year. Um, but we could have all the best intentions in the world to grow the best produce and the most sustainable way. But if we can't figure out a way to become a profitable farm, um, none of those goals matter. So it's not going to be sustainable if we can't sustain ourselves as a business. So really want to focus on making a profit this year, and hopefully we'll have a lot of returning customers that will remember us from last year. And hopefully all of the changes and adjustments that I'm making this year, like expanding our sizes of our rows and doing more an extra day at the market each week, will help make that goal of becoming profitable um, reality. But only time will tell. But I have a good feeling about this year. I have an actual plan. Last year I didn't really have a plan. I just had a goal to start my own farm and sell at the market, and we established a market for ourselves, and I was really proud of myself. But this year I'm thinking a little bit bigger, and I want to be able to make a profit on our farm and be able um, to contribute a little bit more to our growing family, from monetarily at least. And yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to do that. You could help support us by stopping by our stand this year at the farmers market in Harrisburg, outside the farm show complex. um, I'm hoping that in early May we should be ready to go, because I have some season extension stuff that I invested in um, last year. Some low tunnels that should extend our growing and get us in the ground earlier than I did last year. So I'm really excited about all of that, and I'm excited about the season to come. And yeah, just wanted to share all that while I'm starting my first seeds of the year. So that's going to wrap up this video. If you actually stuck around to the end, thanks for watching. Um, like this video if you found this helpful in any way, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.